Hi there, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the measures of central tendency. We're going to define them, practice, apply, and challenge ourselves with these measures of central tendency. So let's get started. What are they? They are not the range. It's not the outlier. They are the measures that are evolving around the center of the data. So they include mean, median, and mode. So if you're asked to find which measure of central tendency best describes a data, your answer will be one of the three: mean, median, or mode, not range or outlier. So let's review what these are. How is the mean found? When you find the mean, you take all your numbers in your data set and you add them up. Then you divide by how many numbers that you actually have. I remember that the mean is, if somebody calls me average, I find that to be kind of mean. So that's how I remember that the mean means average. Add them up and divide by how many data points you have. The median number is when you list them in sequential order, usually from least to greatest. It is the number that is in the middle. So what happens if you have an even set of data? You're going to have two numbers in the middle. So when you get to those two numbers in the middle, you're going to add them up and divide by 2, or you're going to find the average of those two numbers to get your data point that is exactly in the center. If you have an odd set of data, it's going to be easier for you. You're just going to find the one number that's in the middle, and you'll be good to go. So if there were 100 numbers, since 100 is even, you'll have two data points. You'll have to find the average of those two. Odd set, 999, you're going to have one number in the middle, so that's why you want to make sure you count your numbers so you can make sure that you're finding the median. What's the range? The range is not a measure of central tendency, but it is helpful for solving some sorts of statistical problems. It's the biggest number in your data set minus the smallest number. Again, it's not a measure of central tendency, and I have a picture in the background of an opera house because range is also used with a lot of vocalization. And anybody know where that is? Australia. Nice job, Australia. Outliers. Outliers, again, are not a measure of central tendency, but they do affect the data, and they do affect a measure of the central tendency the most. The one it affects the most is the mean. Outliers are numbers that are above or below the rest of your data. Usually, they are 5 to 8 above or below, but they can be as little as 3 or 4 if everything else is right next to each other. Usually, it's 5 to 8 or more. Usually, they stick out by quite a bit. So like in this picture, which one's the outlier? It's the one with the blue and white wrapper. So outliers skew the data. Skew means it affects it and it makes the data different. So if your outlier is if you have an outlier, the mean will not be the best choice of central tendency. It will be the median. So let's get started with some practice. So if you want to write these problems down, these are the numbers, and I put them already in sequential order for you, from least to greatest, and I found the sum already. I added them all up to get 241, and I also counted that they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points of data, because if I'm asked to find the measures of central tendency, which are mean, median, and mode, I also could find the range, an outlier, and the best measure of central tendency. So to find the mean, I took my sum of 241, and I divide by my number of data points. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers, so I'm going to divide by 7. So with your calculator, you take 241, divide by 7, and you get a number that isn't very fun. You get 34.42857, and it keeps going, but it's irrational. So you're going to round that to the nearest tenth. You could round to a different value as well, but whenever you round, you want to put that approximate sign. And to round to the tenth, you look at the number right after it. It's a 2, so 2 does not make it go up, so it'll be approximately 34.4 for your mean, and you want to make sure you have that approximate sign. The median. Since I already have these numbers in order, one way to do it is to underline, but since I already have them underlined, you could also cross them out like this. This is probably the way you learned how to do this in elementary school. I have 7 data points, so I'm going to have one number in the middle, so my median is going to be 35. My mode is a number that happens the most. Once. All of these numbers happen one time. So in this case, instead of putting a 0, because that means an actual number 0 applies, you write, if there isn't any, you write no mode. So it's 2 separate words, no mode. The range is your biggest number minus your smallest number. Again, very helpful to write them in order right away so that you can find all these fairly quickly. Now, outlier here, these two are 8 away from each other. These two are 2 away from each other. In this data set, I would say there is no mode, no mode as well as no outlier, because although they are 8 apart, these are 4 apart, it's not extrapolating, it's not huge. So the best measure of central tendency would be the mean. The mean will be right in the middle. Let's try another one. So here's our data set. As you can see that it's not in order, but I already did find the sum. So let's put them in order first. Pause the video and see if you can do it on your own. Remember, when you're looking at decimal points, you're going to look at the whole numbers first. And then if you have 2 whole numbers, then you check out their second decimal point. It just looks like these are in common. So pause the video and see if you can put them in order. So when you order them, you should have got the same order as myself. And I found the sum already. I add them up and I got 26 and 4/10. I divide by how many data points I have. I have 6 data points. So you take 26 and 4/10, divided by 6, and you get a mean of exactly 4.4. I did not round, so I want to make sure I put that equal sign. That is my mean with my work shown. The median, again, is the middle number. In this case, I'm going to get 2 numbers in the middle, so I have to add them up and divide by 2. However, if your numbers are exactly the same, your median is going to be that number, because when you add them together, like 4.4 plus 4.4 is 8.8, and if you divide by 2, it will be, again, 4.4. The mode is the number that happens the most. In this case, 4.4 and 6.2 both occur twice, which is more than 2.0 and 3.2. So this is called bimodal. Bi means 2, so it has 2 modes. Our 2 modes are 4.4 and 6.2. So you just usually list them in order from least to greatest, and then separate them with a comma. The range, again, is the biggest number minus the smallest number. And if you need to pause at any time, please do so. And you get a range of 4.2. Outlier. These numbers are only about 1.2 apart. These numbers are the same. In this case, I would say there is no outlier. So what would my best measure of central tendency be? It would be the mean. And we're going to talk more about choosing your best measure of central tendency. We've done this before, but we're going to keep reviewing which one's the best, because it comes up in your standardized testing quite a bit. All right, let's go to the next problem. Write down these data points in order from least to greatest. There are 9 of them. Pause the video and see what you did. So you write these in sequential order. You get 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 7, and 8. You found the sum to be 45. So I take 45 and I divide by how many numbers I have, which are 9. You go to your calculator and enter 45 divided by 9. Pause the video and see if you can find not only the mean, the median, mode, range as well. Thanks for pausing. So when I found the mean, I took 45 divided by 9. I get an answer of 5. My median, my middle number, is 5. I have an odd number, so I know I'm going to only have 1 in the middle. My mode, the number that happens the most, I have 3 5s, so that one happens the most. That's my mode. Range is the biggest number minus your smallest number. You get a range of 6. There's no outlier, and the best measure then would be the mean. Let's try it again, guys. So here's your data points. Pause the video, please, and put them in order. You should have 9 numbers. After you put them in order, I always just double check that I have 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Great, I didn't miss any. And then I find the sum. Sometimes I find the sum twice, or when I work with a neighbor, I make sure we compare answers on the sum so that all my data, my mean, will be relevant. So I would like you to pause the video and see if you can work either by yourself or with your neighbor in order to find the mean, median, and mode, which are the measures of central tendency, the range, biggest number minus the smallest number, the outlier, a number way above or below the rest of the data, and the best measure of central tendency. Thanks for pausing. All right, so when I found the sum, I got 501. I divided by 9 because I have 9 numbers in my data point. I got an exact answer of 55.6 forever. The calculator says a 7, but that 7 just says because my calculator doesn't end or can't put the bar on there, it rounded it up. If I wanted to approximate to the nearest tenth, I could do 55.7. But if I do an approximated answer, I need to make sure I have an estimated sign right here, approximately 55.7. I personally like the exact answer when possible, So I always write the exact answer because I like being right. The median is a middle number, so you could either cross them out like this or underline them like this or just use your pencil point or your pen, what have you. You get one middle number because we have an odd number data set, and our median number is 56. The mode is the number that happens the most. So when you look at your data set, once it's in order from least to greatest, you can tell that there's no numbers that repeat. And when there's no numbers that repeat, you write the words no mode. Again, you cannot write 0 because 0 is a number, and if 0 was written here, that would mean 0 would have to be in your data set multiple times, and in this case, it's not. Range is the biggest number minus the smallest number. So when you calculate 92 minus 13, you get a difference of 79. So the range of data is 79. The outlier is a number that's way above or below. Now these two numbers are only 3 apart. These two numbers are 10 apart. So you could argue that 13 is an outlier. But when you look at the rest of the data, 44 and 23 have a difference of 21. So that's kind of a huge gap right there. 44 and 45 only have a difference of 1. 45 and 56, they have a difference of 11. So it seems like really jumpy data. So I would say no outlier. Or if you would put an outlier, I'd say these two are both outliers because they're 21 data points away from each other. So in this case, I would most likely go with no outlier, or you'd put 13 and 23. The best measure of central tendency in here would be, again, the mean, unless you said there were an outlier, and then you go with the median. The mean and median are very close in this case, so that's another way to decide if there's an outlier or not. If the mean and median are numbers that are right next to each other, then you'd most likely put no outlier because they would be very different if there was an outlier. So although you could argue for it, I would say no is your best answer. So an application problem. So when would you ever use range? Ages of family members for a family reunion. What's the spread? So if you wanted to make sure you had activities, or you had you just wanted to know the generational gap between the oldest person in the room versus the youngest, you could take the biggest number minus the smallest number, and what measure of central tendency would that be? Again, that would be the range. And when you take the biggest number, I found it to be 63 in this set of data, and I subtract from it the smallest number, I get a difference of ages of 60 years. So 60 years would be my range. Real world application. Where do we use the mean? If you ever do stats, statistical analysis, stats are prevalent in the sporting world. So the best player, that actually ties usually to their salary as well. Median economics ties deeply with median numbers. Mode, the number that happens the most. Retailers like selling you things. So, or tweets, or Twitter's, Instagram posts, the things that happen the most, that's advertising, is usually mode. Here's another problem. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm trying to rush through this. If these are your test scores, what score do you need to get in your next test? Have a mean score of 85%. So to do this, you have to add up all the scores. You get a sum of 414. So I have 414 plus my next score, and I want to get an average of 85. I take 85, and I'm then going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scores. So I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides. Hold on a second. I have my kid here that needs to talk to me. Pause. Sorry about that. So you take your scores and add them up, then add your next score, divide by how many you will have. There's going to be 6 scores, and you want it to be 85. So this is a double step, two-step squiggle problem. So I multiply both sides by 6. So I'll get 414 plus my new score, and the product of 85 and 6 is 510. So then I subtract 414 from both sides, and I'll get my score of 96. So I need to get 96%. Arrivederci. Apply, extend. Thanks for being you. I appreciate your time, and make sure you ask for any questions. Support each other, please. We're all in it to win it. Thanks for being here, guys.